Welcome everyone, good afternoon. We're excited to have Dr. Yasmine with us today for our summer speaker series with the Institute for Private Training here at AIU. I am so excited for this presentation she's going to give us, but before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself and let you know a little bit about what we offer here at the Institute for Private Training. My name is Sandra Cannon and I am the Assistant Director here, and at the Institute for Private Training we offer customized training for companies. So this means if you need anything from business leadership to cybersecurity, health and safety, whatever your training needs are, we have brilliant educated faculty and staff who can help us build out curriculum that's tailor-made to employees and what they need. And you're going to get a little taste of that today with Dr. Yasmine and her skills and expertise with communication for leadership. So I'm going to introduce now what you're all here for, Dr. Yasmine. She is from Morocco and she teaches with us here at AIU political science and writing. And she is very skilled in this subject matter. She started her education in Morocco and then received a Fulbright scholarship to the United States. And after graduating there, she taught at Amherst and Austin College for 10 years. And after 10 years, she returned to Morocco and worked in international relations with the Moroccan Travel Bureau. And with her combination of teaching skills and government experience, we're so excited to learn from her about communication and the impact it can have in our working relationships and as leaders in the professional community. So I will now turn the time over to Dr. Yasmine, but just to give you a little rundown on how we expect this to go, she will speak for about 30 minutes and we'll open the time up at the end for any questions if there are any. Thank you so much everyone for being here, and Dr. Yasmine, take it away.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sandra. First, I would like to thank the Institute for Private Training of the American International University that I'm proudly part of for inviting me to share with the audience a few thoughts and lived experiences about the importance of communications and its impact in our daily life. I will also share some essential tips on how to communicate effectively. As you said clearly, Sandra, I've been working with I've been in the education sector. I've been working with the Moroccan government as an advisor to several ministers on communication. So I am here to share with you my experience as I lived for 10 years while working in politics in Morocco and with the government, how we can communicate as with impact as either young students, as professionals, as leaders. So communication for young professionals, university students who are now preparing for their academic and professional careers, as well as leaders, are much more complicated, and at all levels we need to know how to a whole lot more of the mechanics of sending and receiving information. When I say more complicated, yes, because as we grow as professionals, as students, we prepare our careers, we meet a lot of people. So communicating with these people, the audience is different from one audience to another. So here on the slides, where I'm going to go through. So after our time together, it is my hope that you will realize your words, may it outlive you, practice what we've discussed. And I'm here. I'm very happy to share with you my experience as communication advisors to two ministers, Moroccan ministers in Morocco. My hope is also to change things for better by communicating with impacts. I will start by leaders. Leaders who brought positive change to the world thanks to their leaderships and, most importantly, communication skills. Who say that? I have a dream. Of course, I have a dream it's a famous, these are famous words said by Martin Luther King. He's an American citizen. He advocated for peaceful approaches to some of society's biggest problems. And here he organized a number of marches. But how can we see, if you see on the screen, you know, the crowds that, you know, united or joined Martin Luther King? It's mainly, besides being a leader, his communication skills were very important. So what were Martin Luther King communication skills? He used positive language to make his point of the benefit of taking the high roads. He used also, as we know, that positive language is a powerful tool because it makes your message absolutely clear about your audience. So the second leader is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States. He was known for a great speaker. He did great speeches. He was known for the abolition of, you know, slavery. Also, he bolstered the federal government and modernized the U.S. economy. But Abraham Lincoln had extraordinary communication skills. When he did his speeches, he always used or said storytelling. He was able to connect well with the audience. He chose his word carefully. He made sure to know who he was talking to before saying anything, and routinely boosted the morale with his honest way of speaking to everyone. Lincoln was described by everyone as candid, sincere, empathetic. That means very understanding, simple, and very clear. So his communication skills were important to, as besides being a leader, and also that helped also bring in a positive change in society. Of course, we're not going to talk only about men, but also females who actually made great impact thanks to their communication skills and the way they changed. They brought this positive change to their society by the way of communicating. And here, of course, you all know her, Malala Yousafzai. She has ensured that many other girls like herself have been able to access to education. She is the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala is now very popular because she has very motivational speeches. She knows how to tell her story. So the way she tells her story make people just being inspired, and she got a lot of help from many parts of the world. Our second lady is the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. If you go to her speeches, she has confidence. That's why it's very important to work also on your traits. You have to be confident in front of your audience, and also she was not afraid. She let her personality and feminine style shine through. Her dynamic personality, general warmth, and specifically her smile made of her very approachable person. So these communication skills are very important when you want to talk to the audience. It's important to train yourself before communicating, and also think before you communicate. The last is, as a leader that I chose, the late Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Sabah. He had wonderful communication skills. I mean, when I see his interviews, he was always smiling and calm. The way his posture was is very calm. He was known to disarm his enemies with his smile. He had high level of forgiveness. He had like positive thinking. That means that as being a leader and always communicating positively as Martin Luther King, and he was focusing on goals and missions beyond himself. He showed remarkable endurance and determination and humility. So whenever we think about the late Emir Sheikh Sabah Ahmed Al-Jaber, we think about his communication skills. Whenever you see him, how he's calm, how he smiles, how he is very approachable. These are very important traits on being a great communicator, and on becoming a great leader, or becoming like a great young professional in your career. So as you see below, these people's effective communication has been very important, vital to gain trust, align the efforts in the pursuits of goals, and inspire positive changes. Lincoln, as we said, he was candid, sincere, empathetic, simple, and clear. He was simple, like he did not, made long speeches. He was very clear and simple. Malala, she was motivational speaker by using her stories. Sometimes when you use stories and experiences, that can definitely make the audience more focused, and you will gain trust, and this will align efforts in the pursuit of your goals. Harris, the Vice President of the United States, the way she delivers her speeches effortlessly with general warmth. And of course, the late Amir Sheikh Sabah Ahmed Al-Jabir Sabah, he demonstrated remarkable communication skills, including advocacy for peace, powerful presence that disarmed enemies with his smile. So these are really important communication skills that we can have and we can build on. So if you want to be successful as a student, as a young professional, as a leader, you need to excel in communication. According to some reports that are shown in the screen, for example, according to a report from the Economist Intelligence Unit, poor communication can lead to low morale, missed performance goals, and even lost sales. Also, a separate study, The Cost of Poor Communication 2013, found that inadequate communication, when you don't communicate effectively, it can cost large companies an average of $64 million per year, while smaller organizations are at risk of losing $420,000 annually. But effective communication impacts more than just the bottom line. For leaders, it is what enables them to rally their team around the shared vision, empower employees, build trust, and successfully navigate them through. So why is communication important? Of course, it is critical. As a student, as a young professional, as a leader, you need to be a, I would say, skilled communicator in countless relationships at the organizational level, in communities and groups, and sometimes on a global scale in order to achieve results through others. We need also to think with clarity. You have to express your ideas and share information with a multitude of audiences. You also must learn to handle the rapid flows of information within the organization. For example, the way you write emails, etc., and among customers, partners, employees, and other stakeholders and influencers. So here I'm going to share with you my experience and tips that I say to everyone when I present, when I talk about how we can communicate as impact, and the things that I learned as when I worked at the government of Morocco as a communication advisor to the Minister of Tourism on the left and to the Minister of Environment. So I worked as communication advisor for almost 10 years. I worked on several as communication project manager in several USAID projects. So I'm happy to share with you my the communication skills that I learned and I'm still applying until now. And also, I appear on TV the way I'm on Al Jazeera on monthly basis on different media outlets. So when you communicate with these channels, when you communicate on a subject, you need to gain certain communication skills. So the 8 communication skills that I'm happy to share with you is, first, ability to adapt your communication style. Why do I say adapt? For example, when I was advisor to the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Tourism belonged to a political party. So he had two things to play on. He had to showcase his person as a political person, right? Representing his political party. And he also has to showcase his, the portfolio he used as Minister of Tourism. That means implementing the royal vision that the King of Morocco is implementing. So these are two different things that we had to work on, that I had to advise him on as a person, as a politician, and as minister, because these are two things. So you have to adapt, because it's not the same audience. When you are in a political party, you are meeting with people in the street. The way you communicate with people in the street is not the way when you are as a minister and you meet with the president or with another minister. So we had to work on these communication skills. So to be an effective communicator, you have to adapt the things you say and write to fit different contexts, as I said. So here I give the two contexts as, politician and Minister of Tourism. This means that you will need to adjust your communication style to fit your audience. In the workplace, this means going out of your way to be clear, respectful, and professional. If you are dealing with an emotionally charged situation, sometimes, you can find people are not really, that are emotionally, they try to convey things emotionally. You have to concentrate on validating the other person's feelings rather than inserting your own opinion. If you are communicating with a large group of people or giving a presentation, you can adapt by sticking to a clear structure, emphasizing key points, and working the audience to keep the energy and attention. There are 6 steps for effectively connecting with your audience. You have to determine your audience. For example, when I was advisor here to the Minister of Tourism, when we go as a politician, when we go to each region in Morocco had its own specificities. So we had to know who we're talking to. So we had to prepare the pitch before, and we have to know what they have, the audience, what they have in commons, where they differ, what level of knowledge about the topic they bring to the table. So things have to be really prepared on. This is how you can make an impact. Secondly, consider what is on their minds. It's important to know what is on their minds. Put yourself in their shoes and think about how they view your topic and what they care about. 3, think about what you need them to know. While it is absolutely critical that you adjust your messages and means of communication to your audience, that doesn't mean you should lose sight of what you need them to know. 4, think about what you need them to know, feel, or do based on what you tell them. 5, decide the best means of communicating this information. The more complex the message, the more you need a setting. That means that you are not, if it gets complex, you better, that's why it's important to be clear, concise, as Lincoln, as the other leaders that I spoke about earlier on. Ask yourself how you can best relate to your audience and motivate them to take action. And that's something you really need to work on. You have to know your audience. Google them. Who are you talking? Are you talking to, will you be able to talk to students? Will you talk to leaders? You will talk to politicians, and also have confidence. Confidence is also an important way to effectively connect in with your audience. Active listening. Active listening is an important step of communicating with impact. You have to pay attention to them. You should not interrupt your audience, withhold judgment. That means you should not talk, emotionally, emotionally sometimes. Yes, you can use it like Malala used it, as how a girl should be educated, should go to school, but you have to judge your audience before, you have to know your audience before, you have to reflect, you have to clarify, and you have to summarize and share. So active listening requires you to listen attentively to a speaker and understand what they are saying and respond and reflect on what's being said and retain the information for later. You don't have to answer right away. You can take your time, listen to them on what they need, and then don't give like extra, like a quick answer, but take your time and digest whatever you say, and then you can respond. Transparency. Of course, transparency is important. In survey by the American Management Association, the leader communication could do better. More than a third of senior managers, executives, and employees say they hardly ever know what's going on in their organizations because of lack of transparency. If you are a representative, for example, at the university, you are, you have student representative, you have to be very transparent with your audience. You have to share with them the information that needs to be shared. Even in your daily life, you have to be transparent with your friends, with your family, etc. So by speaking openly about the goals, the company's goals, opportunities, and challenges, you can build trust among their team and foster an environment where employees feel empowered to share their ideas and collaborate. Every individual should understand the role they play in the company's success. So the more transparent leaders or you are, the easier it is for employees to make that connection. The fourth thing that I learned, during my experience is clarity. Clarity means you as a sender of a message will deliver a specific message. You should be concise. You should convey your message in a few words as possible and say what you want clearly and directly. You don't have, again, if you go a lot, if your speech is very long, you can lose your audience. So that's why you have to be very clear in the way you communicate, either with your audience, be it large or small. Clarity and concision is very important. Ability to ask open-ended questions. So if you want to understand employees' motivations or thoughts, you have to have the ability to ask open-ended question. Jennifer Concurrence, the president of consulting firm, said to the Society of Human Resource Management to use the acronym TED, which stands for Tell Me More, explain what you mean, define that term or concept for me. By leveraging those phrases when speaking with your team, you can elicit more thorough responses and ensure you also have clarity around what they need from you and to succeed. Always have that discussion with your peers, with your audience, with your to make the clarity flow. The sixth skill is empathy. There is a reason empathy has been ranked the top leadership skill needed for success in communication. The better you get acknowledging and understanding your friends, your employees' feelings and experiences, the more heard and valued they will feel. Okay, the seventh skill is open body language. That's the thing. The body language is important, and that's something I have been working on while working with the Minister of Environment, as a lady and as being in like a a society, Muslim society, etc. So it depends. It's not the same as when you are in a different country. But open body language communication is not just what you say; it's how you carry yourself. 93% of communication impact comes from non-verbal cues. And here, if you see the body language, sometimes, you cannot be, if you can see here on the, in the middle of the square, the body language, you should not be defensive. When you sit, for example, you should not be defensive. Arrogant, you should not show your arrogance when you speak to someone. Annoyed, irritated, happy, confused, and worried. So these body languages are very, very, very important while speaking. So while speaking and using your body language can definitely affect the communication impact. Receiving and implementing feedback. Receiving and implementing feedback, asking for feedback, it's important from your team. Cannot only help you grow as a leader or as a student, or even when you lead even something at the university, but build the trust among your colleagues. It is critical, though, that you don't just listen to the feedback, you can also need to act on it. So it is very important. When I was advisor to the two ministers, they used to ask us for feedback. how they can, how they can progress, how they can impact, how they can change these words, and they use to trust us as advisors, and also they can ask even for their other peers during the meeting. So if you continue to receive feedback from your team but don't implement any changes, they're not going to lose faith in your ability to follow through. It's likely there will be comments that you cannot immediately act on. So that's why when you receive, you have to implement feedback at the same time. So finally, communication is at the core of effective leadership. If you want to influence and inspire your team, you need to practice empathy and transparency and understand how others perceive you through your verbal and nonverbal communication. So verbal is the way you speak, nonverbal is your body language, because your body language determines also the way you speak. To improve your communication skills and become a better leader, and even if you're going to tell me I don't want to be a leader, but you might be, a young professional having an important position, begin by assessing your effectiveness. It's always good to assess your effectiveness. For example, for me, when I am on TV, I always watch whatever I said, and I always make sure what body language that I did not do well. When they bring an opponent, I have to just speak and say this is not right, but the way I say it, I have to say it while making sure that I say it clearly and pay attention to my body language. So body language is also important. So it's important, as I said, to assess your effectiveness so you can identify areas of improvement, then set goals and hold yourself accountable by creating a leadership development plan to guide and track your progress. So these are really the main skills that I learned during my, my professional experience as advisor to the ministers, communication advisor to the ministers, and also while working at the university at the education level. And it's something that I learned a lot from it, and that I'm happy to share anytime when I have the opportunity like this to do it. So I thank you very much for your attentive listening, and I'm happy to get any question or additions from you. Thank you.
Yasmine, we're so grateful to have had you today. I love hearing the stories of historical leaders who really had power in their communication. And if you even think about some negative leaders, a lot of their control over people has been through their communication, like Hitler has been known to be a very powerful speaker. So I find it really fascinating to be able to study those leaders and figure out what aspects of their communication really made them successful communicators. All right, we will open up the time now. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourself now, or you can put them in the chat and I'll read them aloud.
Question or addition, something to share, not necessarily.
Absolutely. Any experiences you've had with things that Dr. Yasmine talked about, we'd love to hear from you as the guests.
Hi, hello ladies. This is Dina. I would like to thank you for the opportunity and thank you, Dr. Yasmine, for the insightful session. I don't actually have any questions. I've enjoyed the session, especially with the examples that you have shared with us, as well as the 8 skills which I saved to make sure that I am already implementing in my communication with my team or with even on a family level, especially with the effective listening. I need to work on it. I just want to thank you, and I look forward for any future sessions, either with the Institute or with Dr. Yasmine. So thank you so much. I wish you a happy day, and the rest, please. All right, thank you.
Thank you. This is great. You see how leaders, I was really fascinated as well by how these leaders, I would say 80% of the impact was through their communication skills. They impacted the world. Like Malala, how she get the world support. And we know that there are many Malalas in the world, but the way her motivational story, the way she communicated her story, made her win the Nobel Peace Prize. And we know that there are many Malalas in the world that that were that receives ball because they wanted to get education in Pakistan. Any
question actually. So we've talked about kind of as individuals, you gave a lot of examples, those 8 steps of how to, as an individual, improve our communication. How do we relay this into our teams to improve communication across the team, not just you to your team, but because different aspects of your team have to communicate to each other. Are there any tips that you have on building good team communication?
I would go to skill 8, Mrs. Sandra, which is receiving and implementing feedback. The way when you receive the feedback, asking for feedback from your team, it's always good to sit down with them and receive feedback and then make sure that you're going to act on it. Receiving and implementing feedback helps a lot in the team's work. And as I said, working together and always feedback without being too emotional, and reminding the team about the mission and vision of the university. This is what matters, right? Not be judgmental, but always, that's why you have to think before you act, and you have to know your team very well in order to, to communicate with impact. But I like this one, the last one, receiving and implementing feedback is an answer to your question.
I think we'll wrap up. Thank you again so much, Dr. Yasmine, for all your time and valuable education that you've brought us today. If anyone would like to have any custom courses conducted by Dr. Yasmine or any other of our faculty, you can visit our website at aiu.edu.kw/IPT. And again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll close there. Thank you.